What if I told you one invention changed the course of human history forever? Not in a good way, not a little, but so powerful that it could erase entire cities in seconds, alter geopolitics, and change the way humans think about power, morality, and survival. This invention was not a car, or a computer, or a simple tool. It was a weapon of unimaginable power. And at the heart of it was a man, a physicist named J. Robert Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer did not wake up one day planning to create something that could destroy millions. He was a scientist, curious about the universe, driven by knowledge. But circumstances, fear, and history would push him into creating the most destructive device humanity has ever known, the atomic bomb. Today, we will explore his life, the creation of the bomb, the decisions that led to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the moral dilemmas, the political ramifications, and how that invention shaped the world we live in today. This is the story of the invention that almost destroyed us. J. Robert Oppenheimer was born on April 22, 1904, in New York City, into a wealthy and cultured family. His father was a successful textile importer, and his mother was an accomplished artist. From an early age, Oppenheimer displayed extraordinary intellect and curiosity. By the time he was a child, he could read multiple languages, including Latin and Greek. He had an insatiable appetite for knowledge and could effortlessly switch between literature, philosophy, and science. His teachers noticed he was a prodigy, someone who absorbed complex concepts with minimal guidance. He attended Harvard University, where he studied chemistry and physics, but also indulged in philosophy, poetry, and literature. Oppenheimer was not only academically gifted, but also socially charismatic. He had a way of captivating his peers with intellect and charm. After Harvard, he pursued graduate studies at Cambridge University and later at the University of Göttingen in Germany, one of the leading centers of theoretical physics. There, he rubbed shoulders with some of the greatest scientific minds of the time, including Max Born and Niels Bohr. Oppenheimer quickly became recognized as a brilliant physicist, particularly in the field of quantum mechanics. But despite his brilliance, he was also known for intense self-reflection, sometimes bordering on self-doubt. His drive to understand the fundamental workings of the universe, however, would ultimately position him to lead one of the most important and controversial projects in human history. The 1930s and 1940s were a time of political turmoil, economic instability, and rising totalitarian regimes. In Germany, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party seized power, initiating policies of aggression and persecution. In Asia, Japan expanded aggressively, invading China and threatening Western interests. Meanwhile, scientists in Europe made a startling discovery: nuclear fission. They realized that splitting the nucleus of an atom could release enormous energy, far beyond anything humanity had ever experienced. The implications were chilling. If a bomb could be built using this principle, it could destroy entire cities in seconds. Leaders feared that Nazi Germany might be working on such a weapon, which would grant them unmatched destructive power. In response, the United States initiated a secret program to build an atomic bomb. The project was called the Manhattan Project, and its goal was simple but terrifying: create a weapon of mass destruction before anyone else could. Oppenheimer, despite his reluctance to participate in war, was recruited to lead this project because of his exceptional intellect and ability to manage complex scientific endeavors. The responsibility would weigh heavily on him, as the project's success could mean victory in war, and its consequences could shape the fate of humanity. The Manhattan Project was an unprecedented scientific and engineering effort. Tens of thousands of people worked across multiple secret sites in the United States, including Los Alamos in New Mexico, Oak Ridge in Tennessee, and Hanford in Washington. Oppenheimer was appointed scientific director of Los Alamos, where the bomb was to be designed and assembled. His role required not only deep scientific knowledge, but also extraordinary leadership. He had to coordinate teams of brilliant, often temperamental scientists while managing timelines, resources, and the secrecy demanded by the military. The challenges were immense. No one had ever built an atomic bomb before. Scientists had to develop methods to enrich uranium-235 and produce plutonium-239 to design detonators capable of triggering a nuclear chain reaction and to calculate the physics that would make the bomb work reliably. Every day was a gamble. A single miscalculation could result in failure or even premature detonation. Yet Oppenheimer's leadership and vision held the project together. He understood both the technical and human elements of the work, balancing the urgency of wartime production with the meticulous care required for safety and accuracy. By 1945, the Manhattan Project had become the largest and most complex scientific endeavor in history, costing nearly $2 billion and employing thousands. Its success would demonstrate humanity's ability to harness the fundamental forces of the universe, for better or worse. The atomic bomb is powered by nuclear fission. Fission occurs when the nucleus of an atom splits into smaller fragments, releasing tremendous energy in the process. This energy is exponentially greater than conventional explosives because it comes from the fundamental forces holding the atom together. The first bombs used either uranium-235 or plutonium-239. Both isotopes are rare, unstable, and capable of sustaining a chain reaction. In a chain reaction, the splitting of one atom triggers others to split, releasing energy exponentially until the reaction becomes explosive. Designing the bomb was a complex engineering challenge. Scientists developed two main designs: the gun-type design, which fired one piece of uranium into another to reach critical mass, and the implosion-type design, which compressed plutonium with conventional explosives to initiate the chain reaction. The bomb had to be precise. Too little fissile material, and the chain reaction would fizzle. Too much, and it could detonate prematurely. Scientists also had to solve unprecedented problems in chemistry, metallurgy, and detonation physics. The result of this research was a weapon that combined scientific genius with terrifying destructive potential. Oppenheimer and his team understood that once deployed, the bomb would not just end wars. It would redefine what it meant to have power over life and death. After months of preparation, the first atomic bomb was ready to be tested. On July 16, 1945, at the Trinity site in the New Mexico desert, Oppenheimer and his team assembled the bomb atop a 100-foot steel tower. The desert was silent and tense, filled with anticipation, fear, and uncertainty. At 5:29 a.m., the bomb detonated. The explosion was blinding, brighter than the sun, and the resulting mushroom cloud soared tens of thousands of feet into the sky. The desert shook, and the shock wave was felt miles away. For Oppenheimer, the sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. He famously quoted the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The words captured the magnitude of the moment, the realization that humanity had unlocked a force of unimaginable destruction. The Trinity test was a success scientifically, but morally and ethically, it was a moment of profound anxiety. The team had created a weapon capable of killing tens of thousands in an instant. Humanity had crossed a threshold from which it could never return. 2 months after the Trinity test, the atomic bomb was deployed in warfare for the first and only time. On August 6, 1945, the uranium bomb, known as Little Boy, was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan. The city was obliterated within seconds. Tens of thousands died instantly, and many more succumbed to injuries and radiation exposure in the following weeks. 3 days later, the plutonium bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki, causing similar devastation. Entire neighborhoods were destroyed. Hospitals, schools, and homes vanished. The bombings caused immediate deaths, long-term health effects, and a psychological trauma that would affect generations. The bombings ended World War II by prompting Japan's surrender, but they also ushered in a new era of warfare and international politics. Humanity had now witnessed the full-scale consequences of atomic destruction, raising profound moral questions about the use of such weapons. Even among the scientists who created the bomb, there was deep regret. Many wrestled with guilt over the human cost of their work. Oppenheimer himself became an advocate for caution, warning of the moral and ethical responsibilities that came with scientific discovery. The atomic bomb forced humanity to confront a new reality, the capacity to destroy entire populations in moments. It was no longer sufficient to pursue knowledge or power. Scientists and leaders had to consider the ethical implications of their work. Questions arose that remain relevant today. Was the bomb necessary to end the war? Could alternative strategies have avoided such devastation? And what responsibilities do scientists have when their discoveries can cause massive harm? After World War II, the atomic bomb changed global politics forever. The United States was the first nation to possess nuclear weapons, giving it unmatched power. But the world quickly realized that it was no longer enough for a single country to hold such destructive force. The Soviet Union accelerated its own nuclear program, and in 1949, it successfully detonated its first atomic bomb. Suddenly, the world faced a dangerous balance of power. Two superpowers, each capable of annihilating the other. This era became known as the Cold War. The Cold War was defined by tension, espionage, and a terrifying new concept called mutually assured destruction. Each side built up massive arsenals of nuclear weapons to deter the other from attacking. The logic was simple yet terrifying. If either side launched a nuclear strike, the other would retaliate, ensuring total destruction for both. Oppenheimer watched these developments with growing concern. He understood that the technology he helped unleash was no longer a distant possibility. It was a central feature of global politics. The stakes were no longer theoretical. They were real and immediate. The world had entered a precarious era where a single mistake, miscommunication, or accident could trigger an unimaginable catastrophe. The nuclear arms race also drove scientific innovation, military strategy, and political tension for decades. Countries invested heavily in missiles, bomb shelters, early warning systems, and intelligence networks, all to prevent a single misstep from spiraling into global annihilation. The spread of nuclear weapons didn't stop with the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Other nations sought the same power, creating a world with increasing numbers of nuclear-armed states. The international community attempted to create treaties and regulations to prevent widespread proliferation, but enforcement remained difficult. Countries like the United Kingdom, France, China, India, and Pakistan developed nuclear weapons, each adding complexity to the geopolitical landscape. The threat was no longer confined to superpowers. Regional conflicts now carried the potential for nuclear escalation. Even today, the threat of nuclear weapons remains a reality. North Korea's nuclear tests, tensions in the Middle East, and aging stockpiles in established nuclear states remind humanity that the destructive force first unleashed in 1945 is still very real. The moral dilemmas Oppenheimer faced, whether humanity should have this power and how to wield it responsibly, are still relevant. The atomic bomb taught us that technological advancement without ethical oversight can lead to irreversible consequences. It also forced humanity to confront a fundamental question. Can we ever fully control the forces we create? While the atomic bomb represents destruction, it also left a profound scientific legacy. The study of nuclear fission and atomic energy paved the way for significant advancements in medicine, energy, and research. Nuclear energy now powers cities around the world, providing electricity to millions. Radiation therapy treats cancer patients, saving countless lives. Nuclear physics has deepened our understanding of the universe, from the behavior of subatomic particles to the formation of stars. Oppenheimer's work demonstrated the potential of scientific collaboration on a massive scale. The Manhattan Project showed that humanity could tackle enormous technical challenges when motivated by necessity and resources. It was a lesson in innovation, organization, and the raw power of knowledge. Yet this legacy is dual-edged. Every technological advancement carries the potential for misuse. The bomb reminds us that knowledge itself is neutral. It is the choices of humans that determine whether it becomes a tool for creation or destruction. After the war, Oppenheimer became a leading voice in discussions about nuclear policy and ethics. He opposed the development of the hydrogen bomb, a weapon far more powerful than those dropped on Japan, arguing that humanity needed to exercise restraint. His warnings were not universally welcomed. He faced political attacks and scrutiny, eventually losing his security clearance during the Red Scare due to past associations and suspicions of disloyalty. Despite this, Oppenheimer continued to speak about the responsibility of scientists and the dangers of unchecked power. He frequently emphasized that scientific discovery must be paired with moral guidance. The words "science without conscience is the ruin of the soul" became synonymous with his legacy. Oppenheimer's life serves as a cautionary tale. Intelligence and brilliance are not enough. Wisdom, foresight, and ethics are equally critical, especially when the stakes are existential. The invention of the atomic bomb forced humanity to confront questions that are still relevant today. How much power is too much? How do we balance scientific progress with ethical responsibility? What does it mean to create something capable of ending life on a massive scale? Oppenheimer and his team demonstrated the brilliance of human intellect, but they also exposed the fragility of our ethical frameworks in the face of fear and urgency. The bomb was born out of necessity, fear, and the desire to end war, but also left a permanent mark on human conscience. We live in a world shaped by these choices. Modern geopolitics, energy policies, and international relations are all influenced by the legacy of the atomic bomb. It reminds us that progress is never purely technical. It is moral, political, and profoundly human. In the end, the atomic bomb represents both the potential and peril of human ingenuity. It is a symbol of what we can achieve and a warning of what we must never forget. The story of Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project teaches us that knowledge carries responsibility, and power without conscience can be catastrophic. Humans made a monumental mistake, but that mistake also forced us to learn, reflect, and confront the consequences of our actions. The world we live in today is safer, in some ways, because of lessons learned from those destructive years, yet the potential for destruction remains. Perhaps the most important lesson is this: the power to destroy the world is not a game, not a tool, not a prize. It is a responsibility, a test of humanity's wisdom, and a challenge that each generation must face. When we think about the atomic bomb, we are reminded of our potential for creation and for destruction, and the choices that define who we are as a species. The invention that almost destroyed us is still here, still relevant, and still a mirror reflecting the power and fragility of humanity. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe for more stories from history. Until next time, take care.